The honourable member for Richmond Hill.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I'm pleased to speak on the budget today, and I have to say that as a former parliamentary secretary to two ministers of finance, I know that the most daunting task of any government is obviously balancing its books. And in 1993, when we came to power, we inherited a $42.5 billion deficit, of which 33 cents of every dollar spent was borrowed money. 33 cents was borrowed. We had to make some tough decisions, but we had Canadians supporting us in terms of dealing with the deficit to the point, Mr. Speaker, where we got out of deficit. We started actually putting down money on the debt. We started actually making sure that we would deal with a massive debt, which at that time was over $600 billion. Now, of course, government is about priorities, and when the Conservatives came to power in 2006, they inherited a $12.5 billion surplus, and they quickly eliminated that through the gimmicks of course, reducing the GST by 1 point cost about $5 to $6 billion, and it wasn't surprising then that they got themselves into the financial hole very quickly. Of course, the government, not very good with mathematics, didn't even realize that a recession was coming, and of course had a preempted election in order to forestall the inevitable, which of course was the recession came, hundreds of thousands of Canadians were thrown out of work, and we see the consequences of that situation. We know that their figures aren't very good. We look at Kevin Page, his comments are very clear in terms of the budget officer of Parliament indicating they're out about $10 billion. So we now have, according to the government, a $56 billion deficit, probably one closer to $66 or $70 billion. The question is, what kind of exit strategy do they have? Well, they don't have much of an exit strategy. They claim somehow that they don't have to really cut anything. They don't have to make any really tough decisions because the economy is going to bounce back, and through growth they're going to be able to fill their coffers and everything will be fine. Well, I don't think there's too many economists around, Mr. Speaker, that really share that view, particularly in their second and third year, where they see this massive jump of about $26 billion suddenly is going to come into the coffers of the government. The reality is that Canadians are facing some stark decisions at the present time. Hundreds of people thrown out of work in the manufacturing sector, hundreds of thousands of people in the manufacturing sector, forestry sector, mining, etc., across the country. End of October, in my own riding of Richmond Hill, I held a pre-budget forum, and we discussed some of the real issues that were facing people in the riding of Richmond Hill, and I can tell you that what this government produced in their budget doesn't reflect very much, if at all, those priorities. And obviously the one key area deals with the issue of job creation, particularly for small business. 9 out of 10 businesses in this country, of course, in terms of employment, are created by small businesses, and they are really the engine of the Canadian economy. The government, again, failed really to address this issue in terms of job creation and jobs for the future, not just the stand-pat jobs of today, but how do we make sure that we're part of that green economy for tomorrow? How do we make sure that we're on the innovation agenda, something that previous Liberal government was very much a hallmark of our administration. Unfortunately, we don't hear the word innovation over there. We don't hear about the jobs for tomorrow that really are going to be for Canadians coming out of university and colleges, where they're going to be actually able to have jobs that are going to be of value, not only for themselves, but obviously for Canadians as a whole and for the larger community at large around the world. There's obviously an imbalance at the moment between obviously people who are looking for jobs and the jobs that are out there. And this is obviously a problem. And I heard that loud and clear from businesses in my own community. There's obviously a concern out there that the government is not providing the kind of either regulatory, economic, or other tools to really stimulate job creation, particularly again for small businesses. And that as we've seen the unemployment rise in this country, we've seen people who become very much concerned that there really is no hope. That yes, there may be some growth in part-time jobs, but for people who really need a job, or retraining, which of course is important. You may have someone, Mr. Speaker, who's been having a job for 20, 25 years. They're 40, 45 years of age. Suddenly, they're out of work. And the talents, the tools that they have been trained on 20, 25 years ago are not necessarily germane for today's job market. And that obviously is causing them great angst. We need to see strategic investments, particularly in the new sectors like the green technology. Green technology is obviously something where, whether it's in wind energy, whether it's in solar power, where Canada can be a leader. Up to 1 million jobs can be created in this sector. But again, you need to have the kind of economic tools available, particularly in tax structure, particularly in terms of regulatory. For example, when you're dealing with windmills, rather than import windmills from Germany or the Netherlands or Denmark, we should be able to create them here, build them here, and obviously that would be of importance. The federal government's job creation in terms of investing in new technologies was something that I heard loud and clear. We need to do that if we really want to be on the cutting edge for the future. The government needs to invest in capital into research and development. Again, research and development is absolutely important for those engineers in this country. As an example, we want them to be here, our designers, etc., so that they can stay in Canada. They don't have to go to the United States or elsewhere. That's important in terms of being able to compete at home for the global market. But again, the budget, very quiet on this area. And that's something that, again, we need to be addressing for our new graduates. Federal government should also have taken reforms in terms of policies in educating skilled immigrants. Now, although the issue of many of the sectors, whether it's in nursing or medicine, is provincial in terms of provincial bodies, the fact is, again, leadership by the federal government, working with the provinces and territories to encourage and to faster integrate new immigrants to Canada. What is the point of bringing new immigrants to Canada if, in fact, they cannot get a decent job? And certainly in the fields, we often hear about doctors who can't practice. And the problem is we have a shortage in a number of areas, and yet we're letting the underskilled is a problem, but those who are skilled and are not being utilized, the underutilization of talent in this country is a major, major problem.